In every village there is an elder whose words carry the weight of history. Someone whose voice is calm but can shake decisions and stir the hearts of others. That elder was Baba Danladi. He was a tall, lean man with a deep, gravelly voice and eyes that had seen too many seasons pass. His walking stick, carved from shea wood, had walked the length of the village road more times than anyone could count. He wore simple clothes, usually a faded cap and a cotton tunic. He liked sitting under the tree near the village, square every morning sipping kunu and talking to the men. People respected him, and sometimes feared his judgment. Baba Danladi was not quick to praise change. He believed in tradition in the old ways, the tested paths, and the quiet rhythm of life. To him, young people often moved too fast, chasing shadows and calling them dreams. When Amina began her small business, weaving, crafting, and selling her handmade items, Baba Danladi frowned. "This one," he said, shaking his head as he watched her carry a basket of goods. "She should be thinking of marriage, not markets. She's trying to act like a city woman. She needs guidance." But Amina never responded. She greeted Baba Danladi with respect every morning, bowing slightly and saying, "Good morning, father." He would grunt in return, but say nothing more. Despite his disapproval, he noticed everything. He saw how she stayed late into the evening. He saw the girls who began to gather around her learning. He heard from his granddaughter, Kulu, how Amina taught them to stitch, dye, and package handmade soap. "She says I have good hands, Baba," Kulu once said proudly. He just nodded, but inside, something shifted. Still, his pride held him back. One hot afternoon, Baba Danladi was walking home when he tripped on a loose stone and fell. His walking stick cracked and he scraped his arm. A few boys ran to help, but it was Amina who came running with a bowl of water and clean cloth. "Baba, sit, let me help you," Amina said gently. He tried to refuse, but her touch was firm and kind. She cleaned his wound, wrapped it in a neat bandage made from one of her old fabrics, and offered him cool water. "You should rest, Baba," she said. "I will fix your walking stick." "You?" Baba Danladi asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, with Musa's help," Amina replied. He said nothing, but the next morning his walking stick was returned repaired, sanded smooth, and decorated with a simple carving. A sun rising over a hill. For the first time he smiled. "Thank you," he muttered. From that day on, Baba Danladi began paying closer attention. He walked past Amina's workshop more often, pausing to watch the girls working. He listened as customers came to buy her goods and left smiling. He noticed how she treated everyone with kindness, the elderly, the children, the traders. One morning he called Amina over. Amina sat beside him on the wooden bench under the tree. "I was wrong about you," Baba Danladi said quietly. Amina's eyes widened. "I thought you were chasing noise, but you are building something solid, something meaningful." Amina did not know what to say. He continued, "You remind me of your grandmother. Do you know she once started a pottery circle for widows?" Amina blinked. "No, I did not." Baba Danladi smiled faintly. "People forget, but she was bold like you, brave." From then on, Baba Danladi became one of Amina's strongest supporters. He spoke about her work at the Elders' Council. He encouraged parents to let their daughters learn skills from her. He even helped her secure a small grant from a local development committee, one that he once voted against. "You are not just making things with your hands," he told her. "You're shaping the future of this village." When Amina opened her first community exhibition displaying soaps, baskets, fans, and bags, Baba Danladi sat in the front row. He wore a clean white tunic and smiled the entire time. When she gave her speech, she looked at him and said, "To those who believed, and to those who changed their hearts, thank you." He nodded slowly, his eyes moist. After the event, he pulled her aside and gave her an old brass key. "This," he said, "was the key to your grandfather's grain store. I have kept it for years. I want you to keep it now as a symbol. You are now one of the keepers of our village's wealth. Not just grain, but wisdom, creativity, and courage. Amina took the key with trembling fingers and pressed it to her heart. From then on, Baba Dunladi became more than a supporter. He became a bridge between the old and the new. Whenever someone questioned her methods, Baba Dunladi would say, "Tradition is not a prison. It is a foundation. Build on it." He encouraged the elders to invite Amina to speak at village meetings, to share her ideas for youth engagement and skill training. His transformation inspired others. If Baba Dunladi, the most respected elder in the village, could change his mind, then perhaps it was time for everyone to rethink what they believed about women work and the future. When Amina's name was suggested for the village development board, there was no objection. And when she was accepted, Baba Dunladi stood and led the applause. Every flame starts with a spark, and for many young girls in Amina's village, Kulu was that spark. Kulu was 13 years old with bright eyes and curious about everything. She was Baba Dunladi's granddaughter, the same elder who once doubted Amina. But Kulu admired Amina with her whole heart, watching how she mixed herbs for soap, dyed fabrics, and welcomed everyone with the same warm smile. Unlike most children, Kulu did not enjoy games or gossip. What she loved most was learning not just from books, but from life. She often sat under the tree near Amina's workshop, pretending to draw in the sand while secretly listening to conversations. One day, while Amina was weaving a basket, Kulu crept closer and said softly, "Can I try?" Amina looked up and smiled. "Of course, sit beside me." From that moment, Kulu became her youngest apprentice. She had small hands and clumsy fingers at first, but her determination was big. When she made mistakes, she did not give up. She simply tried again and again. Amina noticed this and began giving her more tasks, cutting fabric scraps, sorting dried herbs, arranging soap bars by colour. Kulu performed each task like it was the most important job in the world. One afternoon, when a buyer came from the next town to place a large order, Amina was not around. Kulu stood up with courage and said, "We'll be ready in 3 days. I promise." The man laughed. "You? A small girl?" But Kulu held her head high. "I'm part of the team." When Amina returned and heard the story, she smiled proudly. "You are not just part of the team, Kulu. You are the future of it." Kulu beamed. Other girls her age started noticing her confidence. They saw how she worked with Amina, how she asked questions and gave suggestions. One said, "Isn't that Baba Dunladi's granddaughter? He used to say girls should not work like that." Another said, "Maybe things are changing." Kulu's work did not stop in the workshop. At home, she started making simple crafts bracelets, bookmarks, even paper fans. She gave them to her mother, her younger brothers, and her classmates. One day during market day, Kulu carried a small tray with her handmade trinkets and stood beside Amina's stall. "Are you ready?" Amina asked. Kulu nodded. "I want to try." That day, she sold everything on her tray, not because she begged, but because she told each buyer the story behind what she made, how she found the beads, what the patterns meant, and how her hands created each piece. People were touched. They were not just buying an item, they were buying hope. After the market, she handed Amina a small handful of coins. "For materials," she said. Amina smiled and pushed it back. "This is your first earning, Kulu. Keep it. Use it to grow." Kulu could not believe it. She ran home and showed her grandmother, who hugged her tightly. Even Baba Dunladi. Though he tried to act serious, but he smiled with pride. Weeks later, Kulu began teaching 2 of her friends how to make simple crafts. She created a little corner in her compound with a stool, a box of scraps, and a mat to sit on. Her first student, a shy girl named Zainab, said, "I don't know if I can do it." Kulu replied, "Neither did I. But Amina believed in me. Now, I believe in you." She was only 13, yet she already understood the power of sharing what she had learned. Her voice grew stronger. Her dreams grew bigger. One evening, as she and Amina sat watching the sunset, Kulu asked, "Do you think I can have my own workshop one day?" Amina turned to her. "Not only can you have one, I believe you will teach many people, even beyond this village." "But I am still learning," Kulu said. "We are all learning," Amina replied. From that day, Kulu's goals expanded. She began writing ideas in a small notebook: how to decorate packaging, how to mix new colors, how to tell better stories to customers. Her curiosity never slowed down. She asked Amina about herbs, about pricing, about saving money. When new people came to the village, she greeted them and practiced her English, saying, "Welcome to our market. Please come see what we made." Amina often said, "You are not just learning a craft, Kulu. You are learning to lead." During a special village event where the youth were asked to display talents, Kulu stood before the crowd and gave a short speech. "I was once just a girl who watched from a distance, but now I know I can create, I can teach, I can dream, and every girl like me can too." The crowd erupted in applause. Baba Danladi wiped a tear from his eye. From that day, Kulu became a symbol for other children, especially girls that age was not a barrier to purpose. Amina gave her a badge made from dyed cloth with the word "leader" sewn in tiny white beads. Kulu wore it every day, and whenever someone asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up, she didn't say nurse, or teacher, or tailor. She said, "I want to be like Amina, but in my own way." One woman who knows everyone's name, remembers every child's birthday, and seems to be in different places at once. In Amina's village, that woman was Myriga. She was round and full of laughter. Her voice could be heard across the market, not because she shouted, but because it was filled with life. She sold pepe, tomatoes, spices, and palm oil. Her stall always smelled of smoke and pepe. People called her Market Mother, not just because she was a trader, but because she cared deeply about everyone, especially the women. When Amina first set up her own small table in the market, right beside the vegetable sellers, it was Myriga who noticed her. Myriga said, looking at the rows of soap and baskets. "You're not selling tomatoes?" "No, Mama," Amina replied with a smile. "These are handcrafted." "Ah," Myriga clapped her hands once. "Hand what?" "Handcrafted? Made with my hands. Soaps, baskets, fabric from local things." Myriga raised an eyebrow but smiled. "We shall see." For the first few weeks, Myriga watched Amina closely. She saw how Amina arranged her goods each morning, how she carefully greeted each people passing by, how she spoke politely even when customers did not buy. She noticed how Amina would cover her items with a cloth when the wind blew dust, and how she packed everything gently into a basket before going home. But what caught Myriga's heart most was how Amina treated people, especially the elderly and the children. One day, an old woman came to the market without enough money. She needed a bar of soap for her sick husband. Amina gave it to her for free, adding, "You can pay later or not at all." "I saw what you did," Myriga said. Amina smiled. "It was nothing." Myriga shook her head. "That nothing means a lot in this village." From that day, Myriga took Amina under her wing. She gave her advice about market life: when to lower prices, when to raise them, which customers like to bargain too much, and how to store soap so it will not melt. She introduced her to other traders, saying, "This is our young sister. She's doing something new. Support her." In a small table became a proper store thanks to Myriga's connections with the woodworkers. Myriga even helped her find a better spot, one with shade and more foot traffic. "I have sold pepper for 20 years, Myriga said. "But what you are doing, Amina, is a seed. It will grow, and I want to help water it." Soon, Amina's presence began to change the market itself. Customers started asking for her products by name. Some even came from nearby villages. Myriga began adding her own twist, buying small soap bundles to include with her Pepe sales. "Buy 2 baskets of Pepe and get a small soap, as gift," she would say with a wink. Other women joined. One day, Amina brought a small chalkboard and wrote her prices neatly in big letters. Myriga laughed and copied her. "See how the young ones are teaching us things," she joked. But beneath her humor there was deep pride. Amina's growth reminded Myriga of her own early days, when she used to carry Pepe in a calabash and had no store. "I used to dream of something like this," Myriga told Amina one day. "I had babies. Then I lost them. My hands were full." "You have helped so many people, Mama," Amina said gently. "You're a builder of dreams, even if they are not your own." Tears filled Myriga's eyes. "No one has ever said that to me." When the market women decided to form a cooperative, a small group to save money together and help each other, it was Myriga who stood up and said, "Let Amina be our secretary. She's young, but her ideas are good. She writes clearly, and she listens." No one disagreed. Through the cooperative, the women began setting aside small amounts of money weekly. They used it to support each other to pay their bills, school fees for their children, and new business ideas. Myriga, once a Pepe seller, became a mentor. She encouraged 2 widows to start selling fish and gave them space under her stall roof. She taught younger women how to measure goods properly and how not to fall for smooth-talking traders who lied about prices. And through it all, she remained Amina's strongest cheerleader. When the district commissioner visited the market for an inspection, Myriga pushed Amina forward. "Talk, my daughter," she whispered. "Let them hear what women are doing here." Amina gave a short but passionate speech about innovation, support, and dignity in business. The commissioner was impressed. The village received a grant to expand the market structure, more roofs, clean water, and storage rooms. As the work began, Myriga turned to Amina and said, "This market has changed because of you, and because of all of us who believed." "No," Amina said. "Because of you, Mama. You opened the door." They hugged each other. 2 women from different generations standing side by side. Myriga never stopped selling Pepe and tomatoes, but now she also sold a few handmade soaps. "Support our village talent," she would say proudly. "I'm the market mother and these are my daughters." In the heart of the village, behind the ancient baobab tree, stood a compound made of red mud walls and a carved wooden gate. It was the home of Saki Abubakar, the village chief. He was an elderly man, wise and quiet, with a walking stick carved from shea wood and eyes that had seen decades of joy, sorrow, and change. Saki Abubakar ruled not with fear or force, but with the steady calm of a river that had learned to bend around rocks instead of breaking them. For many years, tradition was his guiding star. He upheld the customs of their fathers and grandfathers. He ensured the festival drums beat on time, the land disputes were settled with fairness, and prayers were offered before each harvest. But then came Amina. At first, he only heard of her through whispers, the young woman who was doing unusual things. Making soap, selling baskets, teaching children, encouraging women to dream bigger. Some elders always shook their heads and said, "She's too bold." Others will simply said, "It won't last." But Saki Abubakar did not judge quickly. He observed quietly. He listened to the market gossip. He asked questions during council meetings. One day he called the village youth leader and asked, "Who is this Amina I keep hearing about?" "She is a hard worker," the youth leader replied. "She is changing the minds of our girls, and even some of the boys." The chief nodded. "Bring her to me." Amina came with nervous hands and a pounding heart. She had never been invited to the palace before. The chief greeted her kindly. "Sit, daughter." She sat on the woven mat and lowered her eyes respectfully. "I have heard of your work," he said. "Tell me, what do you hope to achieve?" Amina lifted her head slowly and spoke, her voice steady but humble. I want to show that there is beauty in our village. I want to create things with our hands. I want the young ones to believe they can grow even here in this village. Saki Abubakar listened, nodding slowly. And the women? He asked. What do they say? They say they are tired of waiting. They want to be part of something, not just helpers in the home. They want to learn and earn and build. Silence fell for a moment. The chief leaned on his stick. You speak boldly, he said, but with respect. That is good. Amina did not know what to say, so she remained silent. Then, to her surprise, Saki Abubakar smiled. I also have daughters. They live far away, but I see their fire in your eyes. From that day forward, the chief took interest in Amina's work. Quietly and without drawing attention, he began supporting her efforts. When certain elders tried to block her from getting a permanent market stall, the chief sent word. Let her be. What she does is clean and good. When the school headmaster hesitated to invite Amina to speak to students, the chief called him privately and said, Wisdom does not always wear grey hair. Soon more doors began to open for her. One afternoon, Amina was invited back to the palace this time to speak before the village council. The chief wanted her to explain how her initiative could benefit not just women, but the entire community. She prepared carefully, carrying samples of her products and a small chart showing her sales. She spoke with confidence, explaining how her business had created small incomes for other villagers, the herb gatherer, the dye maker, the basket weaver, and even young Kulu, who was now teaching other girls. Some council members nodded. Others looked unsure. Then the chief stood and addressed the gathering. For many years, he said, we held tightly to the old ways. But even the tree grows new leaves each season. If we do not allow fresh growth, the whole tree will wither. He looked at Amina. This young woman is not destroying our traditions. She is adding to them. She is reminding us that we have value and that our hands are not meant only for survival but for creation. From that moment, Amina became not just accepted, but respected. The chief gave her permission to use a small piece of land behind the market to build a workshop. He ordered that local guards escort her products to the nearby town on market days for protection. During the annual village festival, he made her a special guest. Before the dancers performed, he stood before the crowd and said, Today we celebrate not only the past, but the future. Let us welcome our daughter Amina. The applause was loud. The joy was deep. After the celebration, as the moon rose high over the baobab, the chief sat alone thinking. He whispered to himself, maybe this is how change should come, not with noise, but with light. He later told his scribe, write it down, this season will be remembered as the time when the daughters of the village began to rise. Saki Abubakar became not just the chief who ruled, but the chief who listened. He allowed tradition to breathe, he gave innovation a chance, and in doing so he ensured that the roots of the village remained strong, even as new branches reached towards the sky. Years had passed since Amina first sat under the mango tree, sketching out her dreams in the sand with a stick. The shy young girl who once worried no one would buy her soap was now a symbol of change, hope, and pride in the village. Her workshop, once a simple hut made of mud and thatch, had become a buzzing centre of creativity and learning. Made with clay bricks, a tin roof, and wide-open windows, it welcomed sunlight and fresh ideas alike. Inside, the smell of herbs, oils, and freshly cut raffia filled the air. Tables were lined with hand-woven baskets, vibrantly dyed fabrics, natural soaps, scented candles, and beautiful beaded jewellery. Laughter and singing often echoed from within, as young people worked together, shared stories, and taught each other. They called it Giden Guaninta, the house of creativity. But more than a building, it was a movement. Amina had not only built a business, she had planted a vision in the hearts of many. Some of the girls who used to sneak glances at Amina in the early days, curious but afraid, were now her apprentices. Kulu, who once doubted her own hands, had become a master of basket design and was now leading classes. Mina, the school dropout who was once too ashamed to speak in public, now welcomed visitors to the workshop with a confident smile and perfect English. Halima, who had once wanted to leave the village forever, now told guests, "There's no place I will rather be here where my hands have value." Even the boys, who used to laugh and call Amina the soap girl, had changed. Some had joined her in carpentry and logistics, helping to build wooden shelves, deliver goods to nearby towns, and create packaging. One of them, Yusuf, learned digital photography and now took professional photos of Amina's products to share with traders in the city. "It all started with her," he often said. "She made us see work differently. She made it okay to dream." Many mothers had once feared their daughters would become too modern, disobedient, disrespectful, or rebellious. But Amina had shown them another way. She respected elders, honored tradition, and prayed regularly. She dressed modestly and spoke kindly, but she also built a future with her own hands. Now those same mothers proudly brought their daughters to her doorstep. "Teach her like you taught yourself," they would say. "Let her grow." The village market had once been skeptical of Amina is now a tourist attraction. Colourful stalls stretched across the main square. Traders sold not only farm produce, but handmade crafts. Musicians played local tunes. Young guides gave walking tours to visitors from the city who wanted to learn how one village woke up. During the annual village festival, the chief renamed the market square. He called it Kasuwa Amina, Amina's Market. She cried when the sign was revealed, not for pride, but because she remembered the days she had been too afraid to speak. Amina's name began to spread beyond the hills of her hometown. Articles were written about her in local newspapers. Radio stations invited her to speak. A foundation in the city offered her a grant to train other young women in neighbouring villages. But Amina always said the same thing. "I'm not a hero. I just started." She reminded everyone that her success did not begin with wealth, connections, or magic. It began with a small bar of soap made from local herbs and oil, crafted under a tree, and a stubborn belief that she could do it. One quiet evening after the market had closed and the sun was melting into the horizon, Amina stood on the hill, outside the village. She looked down at the rooftops, the flickering lanterns, and the wide dirt road that now connected her home to the city. Behind her, few of her closest students, boys and girls alike. One of them, a young girl named Zara, whispered, "Auntie Amina, do you think we can do what you did?" Amina turned to them, smiling gently. "No," she replied. The children looked surprised. "You won't do what I did," Amina continued. "You will do more. You will do better. You will go farther." She knelt down and drew a star in the sand. "Each of you has a light," she said. "It starts small, like a spark, but with care, it becomes a flame, and one flame can light many others." They sat together in silence, watching the stars appear. And so, Amina's story, a simple tale of courage, creation, and community, became the spark that lit the village. And then, the region. And one day, the world. Every story carries a seed. May this one grow in your heart. If it touched you, please subscribe and share it. Let the world hear our folktales. Thanks for watching.